Unspoiled Network podcast.
This is Spoil Me, covering the Afterparty, Season 1, Episode 8, Maggie. In this episode, I was right. I was right about everything. Most things. I will say, though, you'd expect that kind of figuring it out might have made this less enjoyable, but not at all. Welcome to Spoil Me. Welcome to the show, everyone. I am Natasha. Thank you so much to Max for commissioning this episode. Max, how you doing, bud? I really want to know, as listeners, did me figuring it was Jasper pretty quickly take enjoyment away from my coverage? This is something that I struggle with a lot because there is a certain amount of enjoyment in just watching somebody fumble around and not know anything. And I know that there's been a lot of great response to certain episodes I've done on a reveal that I truly didn't see coming at all. And sometimes I worry that if I get things right ahead of time, it's no fun to listen to. This happened with something in Mistborn where there was something that I didn't even realize was actually meant to be such a big reveal. I sort of figured it out somewhat early on. And once we actually got to the reveal of the thing that I thought we had all just sort of accepted as true, people were just like, I can't believe you figured it out. That's so annoying. They didn't say it like that, but there was a vibe a little bit. But then there are times where it's maybe watching somebody figuring it out is fun because you're like, that's also what I was thinking, or, you know what I'm saying? So that none of this would lead to me really changing the way that I cover things. Even if you were yeah, it really ruined it. It's not like I was totally sure at any point either. So I don't feel like it's exactly, it wasn't a slam dunk. I wasn't all in the Jasper basket, but I was pretty, I keep saying Jasper, it's Jasper. I was pretty sure, and I just didn't really see that anything else made quite as much sense. But I would have been very willing to go along if they had something else ready to explain everything, Ari is in the chat. Not for me. I was just super impressed how much you caught. Pretty much all of it flew by me. And this is the thing. I'm also Ari, if you binged this, did you? I'm just sort of presuming because I would. But, you watch something in a normal way and why would you catch things? Because you're just sort of letting it wash over you and experiencing it. And that's part of the difficulty with me covering things the way that I do, is that sometimes it causes you to zero in on stuff that would never catch your attention if you were watching in a casual viewer type way. And it has its advantages and disadvantages. There's something going on right now. I'm covering the Sookie Stackhouse novels with Miles for patrons. And there have been a couple times where Miles has been like, oh my God, this major thing happened. This is a complete game changer. And I don't know how to tell him it's not. Nothing's really going to change that substantially, actually. He keeps, because we're covering things so slowly, and it isn't just washing over him. He is assigning extra significance to stuff that actually kind of just falls by the wayside and gets dropped. And it's funny as somebody who's read the series several times, how little I cared about those things, because I was just flying through them and enjoying them like a bag of potato chips. And then going through it with him, I stop and go, oh yeah, if I were covering this book like this, I would think the same thing as him. How would you not expect this particular thing to be very significant in future books, but knowing that it's like not gonna be like that? Part of me is like, is he gonna be mad? And then another part of me wants to see what his reaction is gonna be as he slowly comes to realize that the thing he thought was a game changer literally like never gets brought back up again. So anyway, Ari says, I binged the first few and then the last 3 or 4 I watched as it came out, but I'm just bad at whodunits. So here's the thing with whodunits in general. I already talked, I think, earlier in the season about the difference between a show that wants you to kind of figure it out or a book that kind of wants you to like work it along with the detective, and the ones that they just want to startle you with the who it was in the end. And the ones that want to startle you, they purposely leave certain things out or they twist things, and like you would have to know some really, really specific trivia or, you know, something like that in order to ever sense that something was off. And I personally prefer when you can sort of follow along, because it to me feels a little like cheating. If you just unveil a killer at the end and then you have to fill in so many blanks that as a viewer, you didn't even really know were there. So I don't like to say that I'm good at whodunits because they're not all the same. And some of them really do feel like you just pulled that out of your ass. Like that doesn't feel like you really planned this through very well. But this one, Jasper being the killer is not a disappointment. I'm pleased that the things that I caught meant something, you know, like if I were just being paranoid, it turns out, and we got a reveal at the end and it was just like none of the shit that I clocked that I thought was significant mattered. You know, if it turned out to be somebody, I would just accept it as like, oh, they were throwing red herrings at me. It wouldn't bother me. But I do appreciate that I noticed them for reasons. They were significant and it was like breadcrumbs, you know. At the same time, I am a little bit bummed that as soon as I watched Anik's like entrance and the way that Jasper was with him, I feel like I said almost right away that I bet Jasper's going to be the killer, because it always tends to be like somebody who's close to one of the main characters. If that's the kind of whodunit we've got, where it's like a personal, you know. And I'm a little bit bummed that my just pointing to somebody that is a trope turned out to be right. But this is a really good example of checking all of the trope boxes, but doing it so well that I don't mind. Because even though it does turn out to be him, the ride is a really good time. And I was just really like, there is something about seeing what actually happened when Jasper talks to Xavier that is such a bummer, and it makes Jasper's version of the story even sadder in retrospect, because I was very like disbelieving of the way he portrayed Xavier as like really wanting to walk down memory lane with him, you know. I felt like I believed more of what happened, that like from Jasper's version, than it turned out had been true in the end anyway. I still did get a little fooled. Like I sort of expected that his connection with Xavier in the end, that Xavier was like being a little bit gracious and just didn't really want to like take things to the level that Jasper did and was just uninterested in that. But that he was like, oh, hey, man, it's great to see you after all this time. And instead, it turns out Xavier was really bitter and really mean. This is something that's like the kind of fantasy, like mean-spirited fantasy that you can have sometimes, where somebody doesn't believe in you and you go on to wild, crazy success, and then you are able to really rub it in their face later. But the thing that's like so difficult and true is that Xavier managed to reach these levels of stardom and success that are unthinkable to most of us, and yet was still so small about the way he had been treated by Jasper. And I've got to say, as much as like Jasper did drop Xavier, he wasn't mean about it. He wasn't like, you're not going anywhere, you're so full of shit. He basically said, we are just wanting two very different things. And I get that for Xavier, it doesn't matter. It was a dumping. And even though it's like might have been valid reasons, it still felt like a really shitty thing to do. But the fact that Xavier is holding on to all of this anger from those days still, even after you've reached this kind of success, that, as much as I want to be like, it's extremely immature and it shows what a shitty person he was, and I do think that's true, there's another aspect of like, yeah, and to a degree, a lot of us are still hanging on to anger at the way certain people treated us when we were in school. And no matter how much older you get and how many other successes you get, you still can think back to moments of being bullied or belittled or dismissed or rejected and feel that sting the same way as ever. Even though all this time has passed, it doesn't really change in that moment how small you felt and how like how much of a loser you felt. So I'm all over the place here. We got to start at the beginning. And it's funny because this episode is called Maggie because we get her POV, but her POV only takes like 5 minutes. It's a very, very small part of the episode, it turns out. I thought we were going to have a whole thing where we would really get to see her, like every instant of the night. And because of the way they depict her POV, it's for the best that it was short because it was so over the top silly. But I did really enjoy it because I sort of, if you had like asked me how to depict her POV, having it be like a cartoon would have been what I would expect. And instead they did that for Zoe's. And they have Maggie's be like live action intermingled with puppets. They've got like Muppet style puppets around, Sesame Street puppets. And they also have all of the actors overacting wildly as if they are doing a pantomime or something. And she delivers the lines that they supposedly said herself in a voiceover that they are lip syncing along to. So it's actually really reminded me a lot of Drunk History. If you've never seen Drunk History, I don't know. I know the show stayed on the air for a lot longer than I realized. And I don't know if later seasons changed and if it, ever became like less than what it started as. But the first few seasons of Drunk History are some of the best comedy. The whole point of the show is it's people who work in comedy getting drunk, and they sit down one-on-one with the host of the show, and they tell them the story of a historical event or the biography of a historical figure. And they do so in real layman's terms. They're drunk. And so it's like it devolves over time. And what you watch on screen are a series of comedy actors in costume delivering the lines via lip sync that this drunk person is saying. And it's brilliant. It's some of the funniest shit I have ever seen. There is an Abe Lincoln segment that made me laugh so hard. I literally started crying, and I will still burst out laughing to this day. And I've seen it like 15 times. It does not matter. It is still hysterical. So that was really what this was reminding me of. Maggie just like saying like, and Dad was like, okay. And we see him do the big, like, okay, and, I really liked it because the idea that that people are sort of acting cartoony, but they didn't make her POV cartoony, that works for me pretty well, actually. I feel like that's almost better. So we find out that Jermaine just landed and he is literally on his way. So we've really got a clock ticking here. And I love when the detective says, "Tell me about tonight." And she says, "Tonight was so much fun." And she like shrieks it. And then her POV starts with her name in balloon letters. And she is very observant. She comes running up on her mom and she likes Anik, as it turns out. Like her interaction with him, despite the fact that he wound up stealing her koala inadvertently, it does not matter. She's still clearly like got a good vibe off of him. And I just like all of the motions of everybody in her POV are super exaggerated. It's not just their faces or their line delivery. She's like walking with her dad and he is doing this extremely goofy, like elbows up, giant knee to the chest type steps. And when we see Jasper offering for Anik to get in the car, he is like bowing very exaggeratedly. Everything is real over the top and it's great. It must have been pretty fun to record this section, right? Like if you're an actor, she describes the chase, and it's funny because in her father's POV, he said, "Do you want some fruit snacks?" Throws them back there. And then she says, "You're the best dad ever." And he gets teary-eyed and says, "You're the best daughter ever." But in her POV, she asks her dad for fruit snacks. He does not offer them. And then he does not give them to her. And this is something that she kind of holds on to throughout the night, which you would. Like, as a kid, your pleasures are very specific and they're very small. And so as an adult, you say that you're going to do something and it's like so small, it doesn't feel like they're going to notice if you don't do it. But that's literally like their whole day is centering around this one thing that you said was going to happen. Because why wouldn't it, you know? So the fact that she later on is just like, "I decided to go and tell my dad he never gave me those fruit snacks." Which, yeah, girl, go get your goddamn fruit snacks. You're damn right. That's the exact sort of thing that a kid would fixate on. So we have this chase, and then we find out that the fight, which Brett described with one of the wait staff, who was like this big burly dude, it's just some young caterer who peers into the car, sees that she's there, and is like, "Are you really leaving her unattended?" And Brett snaps on him and says, "Don't tell me how to parent. I left the window down a crack," and then punches the guy in the face and sort of backs off as he realizes that he overreacted and runs away. And oh my God, y'all, I really did just think it was security that, you know, Xavier had set up. He's trying to get with this man's wife, and I would not have been surprised at all if he had hired some people to just be like, "Hey, there are going to be some folks trying to get in on this party and I do not want them here." But it's not even like kind of close to what Brett said. It's somebody just expressing concern about the way his daughter is being left here and him flying completely off the handle. So I feel like out of everybody, even though Jasper does turn out to be the murderer, and even though much of what he said was fabricated, because of like even what happened back in high school, Brett is by far, out of this whole crew, the biggest liar. I feel like he just gets the award for that. I like just how much he misrepresented this is truly astonishing. And I kind of wish that Zoe had gotten to hear his version of things, because she would never stop laughing. So Yeah, she says, I waited a long time. It was so boring. I decided I better to go tell Daddy he forgot to give me the fruit snacks since he'd really want to know that. When I got in the party, it was so cool. And she's wandering around. I love that we've got the two Jennifers who are pregnant playing patty cake together, because that's what a little girl would see when people like are hanging out, is that they're playing the kind of games you would play at recess. Walt walks by in the background as a Muppet, just repeating his own name like he's a Pokemon. And we have her like rolling through the crowd, dancing around with everybody. She even winds up being the one who draws the whiskers on Anique's face. And Ken is a Muppet also with a little marker. I swear to God, you guys, Ken as a Muppet. Why is he so much more adorable as a Muppet? Truly. I would love to have a Muppet made of me. I'm sure there's like a bunch of Etsy shops that they do that. You know, you submit your picture and then they like make something, and it's probably a fortune. But I mean like an official The Muppets show interprets how I look. I would love, I mean, it would be so probably like disappointing in a way, but what fun, honestly. Really what I want, if I were to be a Muppet, I would be like, can I be one of Miss Piggy's like cousins? That's what I would love, is if I could be a Piggy type character, because Miss Piggy is iconic. And even as a little girl, I remember just being sort of like fascinated at how like loud and demanding she was allowed to be as a main character, because so many female characters are just the pretty one who's there to like, you know, be kind of decoration. And the fact that she had so much attitude and was like just straight up awful sometimes. It was the same thing as with Lucy and the Peanuts, where I was just like, yeah, I kind of adore these two. Like, they're awful, but that's what I like, is they're allowed to just be like take up all the space. And that's who they are, and that never changes. But anyway, I'm getting off track, as I so often do. So eventually we get to see part of the clip from Hungry Hungry Hippos, which it turns out the character, I can't remember his name, the actor's name, but he has the mustache and he's the one that's standing behind Xavier in that scene. I keep wanting to say Will Forte, and I don't remember if that's right, but he like can do magic apparently in this movie. So the Hungry Hungry Hippos, the like balls that they send out there, are magic in the movie, evidently. This was something about this reveal was like more bizarre than anything else on the show. And then we have the hippo actually like coming out of the water and heading toward them. And I'm telling you guys, hippos are the most terrifying thing. And Maggie says, and then something truly amazing happens. And then she gets told to like get back on task by Danner. And I was like, but Danner, what happened though? What happened with the hippo after that? I really want to know. So yeah, she gets back. I was exploring the party when all of a sudden, and she sees her dad spotted her. So she had been looking for him, allegedly. But it's very clear from the way she reacts. She's like, oh, I don't want to just tell him about fruit snacks and go back to the car. This place is rad as hell. I am definitely going to wander around and, you know, and she puts it as like, oh, daddy saw me. Now we were playing hide and seek. She picks up the fucking crossbow at one point, and I was like, puts it down very quickly in favor of the blonde wig. And I was like, thank God. Oh my God. So she puts the blonde wig on and says that now her dad won't recognize her. And it's the wig from Private Eyes, I'm pretty sure. She goes up to one of the counters, and it's like the candy thing, and I can't tell. Oh, sorry, guys. I just like hit something gesturing at my desk. I can't tell if, because we did see that there's like a candy counter in other POVs, but I can't tell if the candy counter is exaggerated more because she's a kid and it's not that excessive, or if this is like exactly the kind of shit he had out at this party. You know what I'm saying? But I love this for her. Like the look, let's be real. Will Forte is correct. Thank you, Ari. Candy counters that are designed like this are the best, like, aesthetic. If I weren't the kind of person who gets out of control with her eating, having this sort of candy display just in my house, it would be the perfect thing to use for like seasonal decorating, because you could have all of your candies matching whatever is going on for the season, and it would be very cheap, because candy is pretty cheap as long as you're buying like the kinds of candy that we have here that are not like name brand, and you could make it look spectacular. And I had a candy and pastry like counter at my wedding in addition to my wedding cake, and it was stunning. Do you understand me? We had a tree that had rock candies dangling upside down from it. It was so beautiful, like gross. I love candy counters, and I really appreciated that we got a tiny look at it when we were in, I think, Zoe's POV. I think she's the only one that I saw actually getting candy. She takes some of those gold coins. And otherwise, I don't feel like we spotted it at all. So there's something kind of, I don't know if it's intentional, but there's something kind of sweet to me about the fact that, like, we get a little look at it through Zoe's eyes, and then her own daughter is the one that like really zeroed in on it. And there's something about that links the two of them a little bit. Like there's a playfulness to Zoe because she was going after the candy and nobody else really was. But anyway, the fact that we get this like close look on all of this candy, it's just so much fun. The whole counter is also like spread with what looks to be yellow and blue sand, like it's a beach theme. And I don't know if that's supposed to be sugar or what, but it's real weird. She takes a whole jar of like jelly worms and goes over to his recording studio. She puts all the levels on everything super high. She enters nonsense numbers into the keyboard and just spins around and just goes nuts. And it's a real like fun sequence of a kid. It feels like a little bit out of Home Alone when he realizes his family is gone. There's actually like the theme song to this show, which is great, reminds me a great deal of the theme song that plays when Kevin begins to get his house ready for the robbers. That's like, it's very strong on the strings and minor keys and stuff. And it's got a really similar energy to the point where after I watch the show, I will get that Home Alone music stuck in my head for a while afterward. So yeah, this is when her dad spots her and is like, I see you in that wig. And she's just kind of like, oh no. She takes the wig off, chucks it off the balcony. So that's why that wig was down there. Her dad catches her in the movie room, the little theater, puts her back in the car, gives her the koala. And she says that her dad, when she says, I saw her with the singing man, he asks, what were they doing? And she says, I think they were smooching. And he says, I have one more thing to do. Then we got to go home as fast as we can. And takes off, which of course does not look good for Brett. But I still just didn't believe Brett was the one. It was too easy. It's just too easy. So eventually we ask, or Danner asks her, are you sure you didn't spot anything else? And she actually saw Jennifer 2's water break in the entryway, which we had been in the entryway for a couple POVs, and I kept thinking about the fact that the detective slipped and almost fell, and that we still didn't have that part explained. And when Maggie comes into the party initially, the foyer is really focused on, and I thought, here it is, we'll see it here, that she maybe knocked into somebody or knocked something over. And when that doesn't happen, I was like, wow, we still don't have the answer to that. I don't know what happened. So here it is. And Jennifer 2 went to the hospital. She went into labor and just like was really quiet about it, which is something that I do not think she would have really been. She feels like the type to me that if she went into labor, she would let everybody in the house know about it. But, you know, it's fine. It's not a big deal. So yeah, that's why that like water was there, the amniotic fluid, which she winds up fucking slipping in yet again later. And I was just like, oh God. So this is when we have the big gathering in the living room. Danner is telling Culp to get everybody together and that she is going to go upstairs and check on something and then make an arrest. He keeps asking who did it, and she doesn't want to tell him. I love this. Oh, there's a big comment from Ari. Hold on. By the way, those nonsense numbers and something like that from each episode were codes and riddles for people to decipher. Each one said, not the blank, like not the bear, referring to Zoe and such. This show definitely rewards viewers for paying attention like you did. Ari, that's so fun. Oh my God. If somebody commissions a second season, I'm going to be so obsessive. That's so fun. I love that detail. What other like riddles were there other than that number? I'll let you type your comment and I'll continue, and then I'll come back to if you have another example. So what I really like about this is it's sort of an acknowledgement here of the grandstanding thing that a lot of detectives do in murder mysteries. And it depends. Sometimes, so you've got your murder mysteries like Midsummer Murders, which is one of my particular favorites because it's so goofy and over the top, where what almost always happens on that show is that they will be somewhere else away from the people that they've been investigating, either at his home or at the office, the police station, whatever, and they will run across some piece of information about somebody, like, oh, that's actually her half brother. And all of a sudden that one detail will make everything fall into place, and they realize suddenly they're probably about to kill again, and they have to rush out right before that person closes in on their final victim. That's almost always how Midsummer Murders goes. And then you've got things like Poirot, which is like this. And Poirot makes everybody sit through this long ass, it could have been you. You could have done it like this, but it wasn't you. But it could have been him. And he could have done it like this, but it wasn't him. And he just does that with everybody. And progressively throughout the scene, other characters start to get very irritated with him and be like, can you fucking get to the point? And as a viewer, you are feeling very much the same way. So I really like that they have Danner lean into this so much. And it turns out there's a reason why. Because with fucking Poirot, it's just him showing off. All he wants is to rile everybody up, and occasionally he is trying to get a reaction, but it's not even necessarily like for a plot point. It's just because he is trying to cause a scene because he likes drama. He's just a big drama queen. So I really like that here you find out later that Danner was sort of testing Anik to see if he was involved. And that was why she grandstanded a little bit. It's not the only reason, because she clearly was having the time of her life. But there was a true motive behind her dragging things out the way that she does. Ari says, the first episode, there was a red light next to Zoe on the bleachers that was Morse code for not the fireman for Brett. Oh my God. Oh my God, Ari. Oh, that is so satisfying. Like, I love knowing that. If somebody commissions a second season, I'm going to be reading codes into everything. And it is going to be completely inaccurate. I bet I am not going to catch it a bunch of the time. And I will think that things are codes that aren't. I'll be all over the place. I love it. It's going to add to my paranoia. It's going to be all like just completely off the chain. CBR had an article explaining each one and lots of Reddit threads for both seasons where people compile riddles and stuff. It's crazy and so fun to watch. That's awesome. I love that. And Owen hasn't watched the last 3 episodes, so I'm going to rewatch them and be able to like maybe catch some things. So that'll be fun. It's tricky though, because I want to like look into it, but since there is a second season, I will definitely spoil myself. So I can't really like look stuff up still. And I will confess, guys, I had seen the thumbnail for the next season, so I knew it wasn't Anik or Zoe because the two of them are in the thumbnail for the next one, and that would be very unlikely. But as soon as I realized it was the thumbnail for the next season, I like made my eyes unfocus because I was like, if I see any particular character isn't there, that'll be too much of a clue. And there's a guy with dark hair sort of in the background, and I was thinking that might be Jasper, but I didn't let myself look at him or really like register anything. And I'm so glad that I caught myself and stopped myself from looking, because not seeing Jasper, who is like Anik's closest friend, would have been a dead giveaway. And I kind of wish they didn't post that sort of thumbnail, because it is a giveaway. Like, that's sort of, you know what I'm saying? So I think they should handle that a little differently, because there's just a lot you can tell from that, but it does not matter in the end. So, Zoe comes back into the living room. She has Maggie by the hand, and everybody is asking what's going on. And she says, I think she thinks that Brett did it. And you can tell that Zoe really doesn't know what to think, because Brett is somebody who's kind of out of control, you know, and she doesn't want to think he would do something like that, but he's out here getting violent over nothing. And it could be he didn't really even intend to kill the guy. He just got a little too fucking rough with him, and there was a balcony right there, and boom, that's it. So I appreciate that even though Brett's like, tell them I would never, she's not prepared to say that, because a lot of folks have this thing where they think they can tell whether somebody is capable of things. You don't know what anybody's capable of. You just don't. Folks react crazily to certain situations, and anytime a person's like, I know him, and I just know that I love, trust, and respect Owen. But if you came to me with some compelling evidence that maybe he had killed somebody, I would consider it. Because who knows? Shit happens. People can have very weird secrets or terrible accidents or whatever. So I just sort of liked that Zoe was simply not going to say automatically, of course he would never, you know? And knowing now that Jasper did it, the way he jumps on the Brett did it train, it's an ugly thing to see. Committing murder, especially for the very petty reasons that Jasper did, is already terrible. But then being so willing to lay it at the feet of another person and watch them suffer the consequences for something that you did, that takes everything to a completely different level. And that is the sort of thing that I feel like if I had a great plan and was able to get away with a murder, but I had to watch somebody who was innocent suffer the consequences of it, I don't know if I could do it. You know, like, it really depends, of course, if the person suffering the consequences is also awful, and it seems like they were never going to suffer consequences for other stuff. And so at least, even though they didn't do this, they deserve the treatment they're getting. Maybe. But I just feel like I would wake up in the middle of the night in a cold sweat thinking about how somebody else is like getting cavity searched and I'm just in my living room on the couch. I don't know that I could live with it. I just don't. So this is when Danner comes in and she has to wake everybody up. Fucking Indigo is just asleep on the couch with her martini glass in her hand still. And she is explaining to all of them what's going on. And we find out about Jennifer too giving birth. And she's going through talking about Chelsea, but Chelsea says, I didn't do it. And she's like, I know that you didn't. I love that she blurts out about the cat tranquilizers, though. And of course, this causes Jennifer 1 to completely go off. I can't tell if Jennifer 1 really learns her lesson. I feel like she doesn't, because she just kind of seems like the kind of person who doesn't learn lessons. But she is a complete fucking maniac this episode, with accusing literally everybody at one point and being so sure that she had the right answer the whole time. It's so frustrating to watch. I really, really hate her. And this actress plays somebody hateable here and somebody hateable in The Good Place. And I've grown to a point where I feel like I hate this actress, but I don't. She's very good, or else I wouldn't hate her so much. But I have conflated her characters and herself. So I need to see her in something where she's great, because I just don't want to dislike her as much as I do. But, you know, I can understand why she gets cast as a bitch so much, because she's so good at it. And she's also just stunningly beautiful. So having her be a mean girl makes complete sense. So anyway, we have this, you know, okay, it could have been Chelsea whole thing, but you didn't do it. I know, honey, because Indigo said she saw Zoe and Chelsea by the stairs, and Gen 1 felt a tinkle over her head from Xavier, who was pouring out that flask. And I had not put it together that when Jennifer 1 thought she was getting peed on, it was the flask. I literally never, just completely failed to even remember that happened to her. And I just still can't imagine why she didn't move out from underneath whatever was dripping on her. Girl, take a step to the left. You just kept standing there. What are you doing? So yeah, that's what was going on there. Totally did not put that together at all. And then most of y'all saw Anik go up the stairs, but I had to ask myself, was there enough time for someone else to go up those stairs? And that was also my question last episode. And I love throughout all of this, Danner is walking around looking at all of the catered food that's still out. We've got tons of cheese plates. We've got piles of grapes and crackers and stuff, all of which looks almost completely untouched. She reaches out and grabs something that I can't tell what it is. It almost looks like a chunk of banana. And she takes a bite out of it and spits it out and says, "This is really not good cold." And I'm like, what was that even? What was that? Is it plantain? Unique. Well, it's been out for a while, and Jasper adds, yeah, almost a full day. But yeah, this whole scene, while Danner is walking around explaining the way things went down, she's dealing with the food. She grabs a plate and starts like going from one chafing dish to another, and it looks like they're mostly empty, like the caterers have cleaned up and stuff since then. Which is like, really the caterers, all of the people who worked the event should also be in here, unless they had closed up before the murder happened. But, you know, somebody could have been in disguise. It's a party, a great opportunity to slip in here dressed as a waiter. So yeah, she points out about how everybody was remembering the moment where Anik woke up with the same number of people in the room and with Jasper coming in from the balcony, except for Jasper, whose version has him coming from the bedroom, which, not the bedroom, but like from the same like hallway, because the studio is off of that hallway. So that inconsistency, I feel like I clocked that when he was talking about it, that he was like in a different spot, but I didn't imagine that he could have just dropped down from the balcony, because that's just such a long drop. It's not actually that high, but it's high enough that I would just be like, who would do that? It makes sense though, because he had mentioned to her about how he used to do gymnastics, that she could put that together. We also have this delightful aside with Walt, who it turns out was planning to streak again. I cannot get enough of this. This is so funny. So Walt failed to streak at the party he had in high school, and he decided that since nobody seemed to remember him still, even now, he could just do it again, and this time everybody would remember him, and they would have this like bonding experience. He really thinks that it would just be a way for a friendship to blossom. So we see him in the bathroom psyching himself up. And I just, like, this actor is so good. He's in so many different things, and he has such a different attitude in all of them. But yeah, he steps out, he takes his robe off, buck-ass naked, and then he realizes that everybody is running to the balcony and screaming, and he just turns right back around and goes into the bathroom again, but he leaves his robe on the floor, which Danner spotted. So that leaves two possible people. Anique, our original suspect, and Brett. And she decides that she is going to accuse Brett, who freaks out. And I love that at one point he says, "Stop talking or I'll kill you." And I was just like, oh, Brett, babe, you really need to talk to somebody. I don't know. But yeah, he's extremely, and she's like, look at how emotional he's getting. And he's like, "You're accusing me of murder." And I was like, yeah, that's fair. That's fair. It's a good time to get emotional. So this is when Anique is like, I don't feel like this makes sense. I'm pretty certain that when I woke up from being passed out on the floor, I saw Brett in the parking lot. Like, the door was open, it was a straight shot, and I could see I was disoriented. But yeah, I stood up, I noticed the front door was open, and I saw him standing out there. I don't think it was him. And Jasper is like, dude, if you admit that you saw him, it's going to be you that goes to jail. And like, he can afford a good lawyer. I like watching this knowing Jasper did it and how much he is trying to keep Anique from getting nailed for it. Like, that was apparently why he was saying it wasn't Xavier, okay, bud? It was him trying to keep Anique from going upstairs and having this whole confrontation. He knew it would look bad, so he was attempting to keep him from going up there. But if he protested too much, it would be clear something was up. So he had to let him in the end. So this is when Anique finally speaks up and he says, yeah, no, it can't have been Brett. And Danner says, well, are you confessing? And he says, no, but, you know, I know it doesn't help me to say this, but I can't let Brett take the fall when I know the truth. And Brett says, I thought you hated me. And Anique says, I did. I thought I hated most of you. But then after listening to your stories tonight, and everybody's like, hold up. Listening to our stories tonight? What does that mean? What do you mean by that, friend? Were you listening in? And all of a sudden he's like, what? No. Yes, I was. I do really like this because I keep forgetting that they don't know, you know, like that this wasn't just being projected to the entire house. So yeah, he's just like, we all actually have a lot more in common than I thought. So, you know, I came in here kind of thinking that everybody was really superficial and judgmental, but I got more context on all of it. And now I kind of see that we're more alike than anything and that we kind of need each other. And I love how incredibly embarrassed Brett is. Anique, I did not know you were listening. I'm really sorry for some things I said. You do not look like the dad from Family Members, and Urkel had a kid somehow. And then starts to be a little bit too aggressive about being a character witness. Like, you know, he's clearly, Brett is so thankful. And then Anique says, it's okay, Brett. Don't worry about it. It's too late for that. The door's closed. And it turns out things did hinge on that door. I felt like it had to be, but also, you know, like sometimes they just throw shit in there. So yeah, he remembers that when he went upstairs, everybody's like moment of leaving that room, the door was closed and they like look in the mirror and they have this real like, hey self, how you doing? but that when he went up, he had to pull the door to the side to see himself. So somebody must have been hiding in the closet. And Danner is like, exactly. They didn't need to run up the stairs during that 1 minute window. They were hiding in the closet the whole time. And she wanted to make sure, as it turns out, that Anique would be honest about seeing Brett, because otherwise, since he's so close with Jasper, she wasn't going to be able to rule out that Anique worked with Jasper and was in on it. So the fact that he just like came out and said it honestly is, to her, evidence he has no idea. So yeah, then she says, the person who told the most fake, cartoonish story is the one. And Anique says, oh no. And he turns and looks at Jasper. And Jasper is trying to be funny about it. I love that Culp says, I'm sorry, this little angel. Oh, Culp. And Jasper does a like, oh, this is fun. I'm almost impressed. Like, yeah, sure, it's my turn. Okay, go ahead. And really plays up how totally absurd this is. And the whole, like, he's so kind of playing along, but in an aggressive, sarcastic way, that I was like, dude, even if you didn't do it, this isn't doing you a lot of favors right now, like the vibe you're presenting. So yeah, this is when she points out that literally everybody said you came in from the balcony except for you. You said that you came in from a different place. And then why would you want to kill Xavier? And it hit me a few months back when you installed the AV system. And we get to see her version of events, which I'm taking as gospel that this is correct, even though it's just a version she made up. So she says, I figure while you were doing the installation, you got to snooping around in Xavier's files and you came across the How Great Is This Party track, which is your line. And you were extremely bitter because he became a star and you weren't. And that was your line and he stole it. And he's like, I wasn't bitter. I was psyched. We were friends. And she says, dude, get the fuck out of here with, oh, we were friends. No, you weren't friends. And you know you weren't friends. You guys broke up in that like bitter way. You wanted to give him another chance to help you. So you asked him to bless your track. And we see from his like, it's so awful. The look that Xavier gets and says, you're seriously asking me that after you dumped me to start your solo career, which is going super well for you. And Jasper says, that's not fair. I gave you your name. My mom gave me my name. Fine. Then I came up with How Great Is This Party? That was my idea. What are you talking about? Did you look at my private files? How Great Is This Party is not yours. That's just some shit people say. We are not friends. You made that clear 15 years ago. And Jasper says, I made a mistake. And Xavier interrupts. Let me make this very clear. I will never bless any track of yours. You're nobody. You're a loser. I am me. And you are my AV guy. And Jasper says, I'm not a loser. Keep telling yourself that, man. And Jasper then says, can you just not tell anyone this happened, please? And that is when Xavier says, yeah, sure, whatever. And walks away from him. And, ugh, that's so devastating. Like, it really is. This is the sort of thing where, again, I want to be mad at Xavier because he was just so mean-spirited. But also, if he really felt like they were friends and this dude just literally dropped off the face of the planet after telling him we're going in different directions and didn't even seem to want to be friends anymore, which I'm going to hazard a guess is exactly how it went based on the way Jasper was mocking him to Anik. You know, he was really just kind of like, look at this asshole. It didn't seem like he had any respect for Xavier at all. And if you feel this way about somebody, it's just not going to be like, you're not going to keep up your contact with them. And he probably felt like he really managed to dodge a bullet. So Xavier did not need to be as mean as he was, and it was probably really fun for him to like rub this in Jasper's face in the moment. But I also remember what it was like when he was told, I'm not interested in making music with you anymore. We're going in different directions. He was so hurt. And apparently that really stuck with him. So, this is when Danner says, you inspired the song, but there was no legal way to get your hands on it. So, what you planned to do was kill him, steal the song and say he gave it to you, and then release it as a duet with you and Xavier as your Tupac. And this is an incredible, fanciful, imaginary story, but it's totally false. It's all made up. And I just, again, how completely over the top he is with his denials. It just feels like, sir. So then she points out, if you went into the studio and you were listening to music, how was it not blasting? Because Maggie was in there first and she put all the faders all the way up to 10, which they still were when I went in and interviewed Anik, because I put my little figurine down and I looked at them. And then you said you didn't come out until after Anik woke up. So how were you listening to a track? How does that work? You went in there, you took one of them alibi selfies and left. And this is the moment where Brett comes in and he does the whole stick around and making musical history thing. And he points to Anik and says, Anik, now's the time where you need to stand up for me. And I was just so mad at him in that moment for like, you know, Anik was about to take the fucking fall, dude. And you were just going to let him. You were doing a little bit here and there to try and help. But if he was going to take the fall, you clearly were just going to allow that to happen, which is hideous. Like, it's just truly an unthinkable thing to do to anybody, but to somebody who's like allegedly your best friend or close to it. Oh my God. Just beyond belief. So yeah, she says you snuck up there while everyone thought you were in the recording studio and you hid in the closet. So when he was out on the living room balcony, you started flickering the lights in his room, which I love the fact that the light flickering thing was real when he was talking to Chelsea. It just sounds like him making shit up. It does not sound at all like that happened. He's just trying to get away from Chelsea. But no, it was fucking real. I love it. So we have him going into the bedroom, hiding, and then coming out. And at first he has to dodge back in because Chelsea comes in and there's that whole thing. But then eventually he does come out and they have their confrontation and he gets violent and is like, he takes Xavier's phone right out of his hands. Xavier calls him psycho. He punches him in the face. And at that point, Xavier is starting to say, let's just start over. Jasper, wait, because I think he gets where this is going. And Jasper just comes up to him and shoves him over. It's very sudden, and there's something about it that feels like it was definitely premeditated, clearly. But there's a part of me that feels like Jasper didn't even really think he was going to do it. It's like not trying to pardon him at all, but just like this hurt and rage took him over so completely that it was a moment of just losing his head, And it turns out that the dude who killed his wife, she realizes that he had just texted his wife to come to the front door at the same time. So that's why that happened. And I'm wondering if we're going to get a conviction on him after the fact. He had the password to his phone and to her phone, and he just deleted the text, and you knew Xavier's password. So after you killed him, you sent yourself a text from Xavier's phone. And she says, I'm looking through this, and he never responds to your texts, but he just so happens to respond today. And by the way, this phone is the one that's like, she figures out you have his other phone, and they call it, and it just starts ringing in his pocket. And she says, he tries to make the excuse that he just has two phones, and one of them is a work phone and one of them is a personal phone. Still, Jasper is hanging on. She's trying to turn you against me. Anik then remembers the thing with the secret camera and the fact that the security stuff started to disappear. And Jasper was on his phone as it deleted, but the phone wasn't his phone. It was Xavier's phone. And that he remembers now that Jasper's phone had a particular case on it, and this phone didn't have a case at all. And I was very, very vindicated, because I really started to think I was just making shit up. I'm sorry if you can hear my dog drinking water. He's a very enthusiastic water drinker. But yeah, I reached a point here where I started to be like, am I just reading into literally everything? But I just, I felt like I didn't catch that it was a different phone, though. I didn't catch that at all. And I really like how obvious it would have been if you were paying attention to that. And he says, why would I have wanted his phone? And Xavier says to copy his song ideas from his voice memos, which, oh my God, perfect. That didn't even occur to me. But yeah, that's right there as a motive. That didn't, you couldn't send the emails, the files in an email. So you had to take the phone. And when I caught you in the shower, you were playing the voice memos into your own phone, which, amazing. How do you send the files that I never thought about the fact that he would take the voice files, or that those would be his goal in the first place. And I don't think it would have occurred to me not to simply send them to myself, because I would set up another email, I would set something else up, but that takes time to do. And if you're I don't know though, it doesn't take as much time as just playing all of the voice memos out loud and recording them. So yeah, she calls the number, and he has the phone, pretends that it's his second phone. And everybody cheers when they realize that it's him, that he's been caught, except of course, Anik, and also Zoe, who looks truly sad. And Jasper is doubling down. I gave him his career, I gave him his name, and he still wanted to screw me over. All I was asking for was a little bit of credit. I was the one that was supposed to be famous. And I just wanted a little, and it was still too much. I don't deserve that. I helped him start this whole thing. Why shouldn't I get a little? But he still wanted to screw me over and get rich on my line. It's the perfect encapsulation of celebratory music. That is mine. And I love this. And there's another thing you guys didn't even think about. And when Culp says what, he just turns and sprints for the front door. Because throughout that whole monologue, he's walking in between everybody, making his way out to the front foyer without them really noticing that's what he's doing. So he does not get out. He gets to the door. It's this weird giant glass door. So Culp grabs him and throws him down. And as he's getting arrested, he apologizes to Anik. I never meant for you to take the blame. I was trying to put doubt in the air. you're my friend. And Anik says, a friend wouldn't do this. And that's, you know, like in the end, it does not seem like Jasper was ever going to speak up. If Anik got arrested, I just think he was going to let him get arrested. I don't know if he would ever have confessed. I don't think he would. Because he really believes that the universe is unjust and punished him somehow in a way that's not fair. So this we have an exchange of cards between Anik and Detective Danner. I'm way over time, so I gotta speed it up. But she's like, maybe you want to be in law enforcement. And he's like, yeah, absolutely not. But if you want my card to ask me for help on solving puzzles, and he pulls it out and it's like all smashed because he got soaked. We go to Jasper getting brought outside, and he's so excited that he is getting so much attention for being the murderer. And he's yelling, check out my music. It's at Yasmataz69. And then he starts singing Whoa Music Boy, which is amazing. I really want to check at Yasmataz69, please. I gotta go look at that. So this is when Jermaine walks up, and Danner gets to tell him that she got a full confession out of the guy. I can't believe you took a flight all the way here from LA. You might as well just turn around and get him back on that airplane. Thank you for being a good team player, champ, and claps him on the shoulder and then barks in his face, which was great because he really seemed startled. So I love as they're getting Jasper into the car and he keeps yelling. The police chief just says, shut the fuck up. Culp at this point says, I gotta go grab something real quick. He runs inside and he takes the Hungry Hungry Hippos poster off the wall, apparently. Wonderful. We have Jennifer apologizing to Chelsea, and Chelsea just basically being like, yeah, you were a huge bitch and you carry a lot of anger. And Jennifer once says, okay, I'm so sorry. Are we friends? And she just says no and walks away. A huge amount of respect for that. No, we're not friends. I've seen the way you treat your friends. I'm good. Thanks, but no. And as she walks away, she says, see you around, Walt, who is so excited that somebody remembered his name. He then yells, it's my birthday after her, which is fucking great. He just says happy birthday, Walt, to himself. I can't. So, oh no, it's not the Hungry Hungry Hippos. It's like the memorabilia. He says, I thought it was a gift. That's what Walt says. I don't know what he means by that. Did he bring that to the party? Or I don't know what that is. Anyway, it does not matter. Then Anik and Zoe head out to get breakfast as Maggie tells her dad that she likes Anik, and he's like, he's not as cool as me though, right? Now's when you say definitely not, Dad, which she obediently does. But I like the fact that he just lets them go and he doesn't throw a little fit about it or anything. And then we have a moment later where they're in Jasper's car and they pull over. It's this gorgeous sunrise and they're sitting there and she's like, when are you going to make your move? He's like, maybe if somebody hadn't died tonight and everything wasn't so fucked up. And she seems to like hear that and go, oh, okay. So like maybe in like, you know, a month or something when everything begins to calm down. And he is watching her as he says it and seems to kind of realize how much of a risk he's taking by just... And he finally leans over and kisses her and she seems so relieved. Like just, oh, thank God. And they start making out. The camera pulls slowly back and then is outside the car and we suddenly hear Walt clear his throat. Sorry to interrupt. Would you mind dropping me off at home first? And that's the end of the episode. I laughed so hard at Walt being in the car with them, you guys. I lost my mind. I was laughing so hard, and then the song that starts playing is Xavier singing about he'll never die, and like, go ahead and push me off the balcony, and it's so good. It's such a good ending. It was just like chef's kiss, flawless, no notes. I loved it. I loved it so much. What a stroke of brilliance. Oh man. So, okay, I have to go. I'm over time, but thank you again, Max, for commissioning this. What a delight. And thank you, Ari, for hanging out with me in the chat today. Appreciate you all so much. Hope you enjoyed the coverage. And until next time, toodaloo, motherfuckers.
That was an Unspoiled Network podcast.